New Caledonia, public health, economic turbulence, and more. Today is Thursday, May 29th, and welcome back to Pacific Airwaves, a podcast on the Pacific Islands from the Southeast Asia Program, the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative, and the Australia Chair at CSIS. I'm Andreyka and John, in the studio with John Ajay from the Australia Chair. Hey, John.
Hey, Andreyka. Always good to be here with you in the studio.
Great to be here with you. So, John, I heard that you will be headed off to the Pacific in a couple weeks.
Yes, that is correct. I leave in a few days to go to Fiji, where I'll be presenting on Tuvalu-Taiwan relations at the 2025 Pacific Update. It's a conference co-hosted by Australia National University's Development Policy Center and the University of the South Pacific School of Accounting, Finance, and Economics. And the week after that, I'll head to Tuvalu to catch up with some old friends.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm sure it'll be really interesting. So we'd love to hear an update next episode on your travels.
Yes, will do. Anyway, let's dive into the news making waves in the Pacific.
Let's start with New Caledonia. So this past week marks the one-year anniversary of the beginning of large-scale riots. These riots deeply divided the island, leaving 14 dead, resulting in 2.2 billion euros worth of damage, and deepening the uncertainty of New Caledonia's political future.
The political future of New Caledonia remains under intense negotiations, and talks continued between France and New Caledonia's political parties in early May. French Minister for Overseas, Manuel Valls, arrived on the island to meet with various pro-France and pro-independence political parties in what was described as a conclave of sorts.
This type of meeting was meant to get all parties involved and remain in isolation until a compromise was reached about New Caledonia's political future. This builds off of previous negotiations in February to replace the Noumea Accord, the agreement which defines New Caledonia's political relationship with France. However, the recent discussions failed to reach any compromise, and the negotiations will remain ongoing.
Security was heightened during the negotiations given the one-year anniversary and the sensitive nature of the talks. Public marches and demonstrations were banned in the Greater Noumea area from Monday the 12th to Friday the 16th. Restrictions on the sale of alcohol, firearms, and ammunition were also instituted.
Now, these tense discussions haven't been the only news out of New Caledonia. In the last month's episode, we discussed President Trump's executive order on deep-sea mining. This EO has sparked various concerns from the Pacific about companies or countries bypassing the International Seabed Authority to obtain an exploration or exploitation permit from the United States instead.
That's right, and New Caledonia took a decisive move against deep-sea mining in its territorial waters and exclusive economic zone. The government proceeded with a ban on all deep-sea mining for 50 years. One of the strongest policies against the practice in the world. The policy bans all commercial exploration, prospecting, and mining of mineral resources within New Caledonia's exclusive economic zone, an area of 1.3 million square kilometers.
While strong in nature, the ban on mining wasn't universally supported. Members of groups aligned with pro-French or anti-independence parties abstained from the vote. They cited the measure as too rigid and questioned its legal basis.
New Caledonia views the decision as one to pioneer ocean protection, rather than giving in to the logic of immediate profit, according to Jeremy Cotillo-Monnier, the government official responsible for the issue. This balance between protecting the oceans and generating economic growth from deep-sea mining has divided Pacific Island countries, especially in the wake of Trump's executive order.
And now, moving over to a series of public health and infrastructure challenges that have emerged across multiple island nations. Let's start with water safety concerns in Saipan, the capital of the Northern Marianas Islands, where recent testing has found chemical substances in the public water supply. These synthetic compounds don't break down naturally in the environment and can accumulate in the body over time. Local authorities are advising residents to avoid drinking tap water while they assess the extent of contamination, which may cause long-term health effects, including cancer or immune system damage.
Turning to Papua New Guinea, a country that was declared polio-free by the World Health Organization in 2000. But officials have now confirmed a new outbreak of the deadly virus. Polio is highly contagious and can cause paralysis, breathing difficulties, and even death. The reemergence has triggered alarm over efforts to contain the spread and avoid a potential outbreak.
And it's not just polio that's raising concerns. New Zealand has identified a case of measles, which experts are calling a red flag for Pacific communities. Measles is highly infectious, and its spread could have severe consequences for families with low vaccination coverage.
And beyond these public health concerns, Palmerston Island in the Cook Islands is facing a critical infrastructure crisis. The failure of a diesel generator has plunged the community into a power shortage, leaving it entirely dependent on limited solar power, which is directly affecting community well-being.
The power shortage has impacted the local fishing industry, where several tons of fish are at risk of spoiling. And the island's isolation compounds the entire situation. With no airport and the next supply ship weeks away, there's still no clear fix in sight. Local leaders say that the island needs not only a new generator, but sustained investment in maintenance, training, and reliable access, as necessities will remain fragile without them.
The strain doesn't end there. Geopolitical instability and rising unemployment are bringing a storm of economic uncertainty across several Pacific Island countries. According to the governor of the Northern Marianas Islands, tensions in the wider Asia-Pacific region have disrupted the country's travel authorization program and caused a sharp drop in visitor arrivals, directly impacting an economy heavily reliant on tourism. Also, New Zealand's latest unemployment figures show that unemployment among Pacific peoples has climbed to 10.8%, more than double the national rate of 5.1%, and marking the highest level since 2016.
Nada Shueri, the deputy director of the International Monetary Fund's Asia and Pacific Department, notes that inflation and climate change are affecting the economies of Pacific Island countries as well. Local officials say that diversifying the economy, particularly through sectors like education, technology, and small business development, could offer a sustainable path to long-term economic stability.
Aside from outstanding issues related to the future of tariffs and foreign aid in the Pacific, there have been new developments regarding the United States' engagement with the region. The South Pacific Tuna Treaty Act, introduced by the delegate from American Samoa, Amata Radawagan, passed in the U.S. House of Representatives.
The treaty allows for the U.S. fishing fleet to fish in the exclusive economic zones of 16 Pacific Island states. The bill that was passed provides congressional direction to fully implement the treaty, which has been in place since 1988. It also formally includes the amendments to the treaty agreed to in 2016. These amendments included clearer access terms for the U.S. fishing fleet and more flexible mechanisms for engagement with Pacific Island countries.
The tuna sector is of vital importance to the Pacific Islands. Fisheries generate large amounts of revenue for these island nations, and these countries have cooperated to maintain one of the largest sustainable fisheries in the world.
In 2023, the Biden administration signed a 10-year, $600 million agreement to promote fisheries management, development, and sustainability. It's unclear whether this funding will continue under this bill.
The United States is also proceeding at a pace with its military modernization in the Pacific. The island of Tinian in the Northern Marianas Islands is a prime example. Hosting important airfields that were last used in World War II, the Air Force is refurbishing some to fit with its agile combat employment doctrine.
And this has had impacts on the Northern Marianas' economy, with billions of dollars from Department of Defense contracts coming to Tinian and elsewhere. Higher-paying jobs are also available to residents, and more tax revenue is going to the government. However, the public and government officials are looking for ways for sustainable economic growth once these contracts end, for example, in the tourism sector. In addition, this influx of money has driven housing prices higher.
Guam is also looking to diversify its economy while maintaining high levels of U.S. military presence. It is seeking to position itself as a logistics and defense hub in the Pacific. Guam Governor Lou Leon Guerrero said how she wants to bring chip manufacturing and other advanced technology infrastructure to the island to support the U.S. military presence and industrial base.
Guam's tourism sector is another area of note, but is recovering slowly since the pandemic. Federal regulations, global economic conditions, and air connectivity challenges have also slowed tourism. These are the challenges and opportunities of these islands, given the large U.S. military presence, and the next few years will be key in navigating them.
Let's turn now to the Solomon Islands, where recent developments in Parliament have reignited debate over the stability of executive leadership and the rules governing motions of no confidence. Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele has called for reforms to the way these motions are introduced, just weeks after the second such motion against his administration was withdrawn.
That's right. Since taking office in 2024, Prime Minister Manele's Government for National Unity and Transformation, or GNUT, has already faced two no-confidence motions. Both were introduced by opposition MP Gordon Darcy Lilo and later withdrawn before debate. While procedurally valid, these motions have had a destabilizing effect on the political environment, raising questions about the resilience of coalition governance in the country.
Speaking in Parliament earlier this month, Manele emphasized the need to strike a balance. He affirmed the constitutional right of MPs to introduce motions of no confidence, but argued that the collective rights of Parliament to assess such motions when they have genuinely matured also need protection. He argued that political instability is a barrier to long-term development planning.
The Prime Minister has signaled that he will propose a cabinet paper to appoint a task force for broader political reform, including a re-examination of the political party system. It's an agenda that has been tried before. Similar reforms were introduced in 2010, but ultimately withdrawn on the floor of Parliament. So the question is whether the political will and parliamentary consensus are in place to see it through.
Recently, 10 cabinet ministers and government-aligned backbenchers resigned from GNUT. This marked a turning point, and they have now reportedly joined a new political bloc comprising 25 MPs, which could pose a serious threat to GNUT's governing majority in Parliament.
And this is a very important development. It signals not just dissent within the ruling coalition, but also a possible consolidation of the opposition. While no new no-confidence motions have been formally tabled, the formation of a 25-member bloc could increase the likelihood of one being reintroduced, possibly with a stronger chance of success. For now, GNUT remains in power, but its numerical strength and political cohesion are clearly under pressure.
More broadly, what we're seeing is a tension that affects many parliamentary systems in the Pacific, as in how to maintain accountability without enabling constant executive turnover. Manele's emphasis on intentional political stability as a prerequisite for development mirrors debates in other regional legislatures, including Papua New Guinea, where an 18-month grace period on no-confidence motions was recently passed.
Manele's proposal, if it gains traction, would need to address both procedural safeguards and party system consolidation.
In the end, the fate of these reforms may rest on how the next few weeks unfold. If GNUT can stabilize its coalition and preempt further defections, Manele may have enough momentum to pursue reform. If not, we could see the Solomon Islands head back into another cycle of political uncertainty.
And that about covers it for today's episode.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pacific Airwaves. Did we miss anything you wanted to hear about? If so, please write us at scaradio@csis.org or DM us on your favorite social media platform.
And if you don't already follow us, please subscribe and give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever streaming platform you listen to us on.
Marla Hiller is our producer, and our interns are Ryan Bean, Sophia Data, and Zia Guo. My name is John Auger.
And I'm Andreyka and John.
And we'll see you next month for another episode of Pacific Airwaves.